The IM Tech Meetup, and this month we're going to be talking about becoming a developer. We've got fantastic speakers today. The only thing to bear in mind, we've had like 2 people drop out, unfortunately, because they've been ill, but just we've got a fantastic lineup, and we really hope you enjoy these talks. The other thing to kind of just briefly mention is the IM Tech Meetup is sponsored by 2 partners in the sense of Content by Kentico and MMT Digital. So they're sponsoring the event for us. And just a little bit about me, who am I? So my name's Ilesh Mistry. I'm a CMS Specialist and a Content MVP. I work for MMT Digital. And you can get my contact details on using the QR code on the right. A couple of Twitter handles that you can follow if you're interested in the meetup are there as well. So a little bit about the IM Tech Meetup. Generally, the idea is that they're front-end driven topics. Like I mentioned, if you want to know a little bit more about them, you can follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter and for future meetups. And if you even want to talk or recommend someone to be talking at a future meetup, then by all means, message me and we can get in touch and find a good session for them to be involved in. And if you need some more details, you can use the QR code as well there. Something about content. So basically, content is a headless CMS provider, and they build digital experiences without compromise. And you can get to their sort of like 90 days free trial using the QR code. But also importantly, they've got like a Discord channel for you to kind of communicate with others and join the development community there. They are hiring as well. So if you are looking for a new role, looking to kind of move yourself into a different avenue, then they do have roles available like full stack developer, developer advocate, and many more. So you can probably check them out using the link on there as well. And MMT Digital, the company I work for, they're a digital consultancy and trusted delivery partner using technology to build a better future. Our key sort of areas are, expert team designs and build accessible, sustainable, and composable products. And if you want to know a little bit more about MMT Digital, you can use the QR code as well on the right there. And we are also recruiting. So there's various roles that we have available, including front-end and server-side engineers. And we have lots of roles in different locations and remote as well. So if you are interested, you can use a QR code, or you can just drop me a message and I can give you some more information around that. So just a little bit before we get started, if we can just make sure that if we're not speaking, be on mute, that would be great. And if you've got any questions during any of the sessions, just add them in the chat, and then there'll be hopefully a session at the end of the talks to kind of have a Q&A, so we can kind of pick up those questions then. A big disclaimer in the sense of we are recording these sessions, so if you ever have to drop out or pass on these sessions to other people, we will share the recording at some point next week, or as soon as we can, to get the recording in place. So that's useful. And then if you are doing any social media sharing or tweeting, please use those handles up there. And one important thing that we've got at the moment is that content have some swag available for us. So if you stay tuned, I'll be releasing a poll of some questions for you to kind of answer. Don't worry, they're not tricky. But it will give you an opportunity to win some kind of, I think at the moment we've got some hoodies and some like water bottles and coffee, jars and stuff like that. But yeah, so let's get started. So today's agenda we have is it's going to be myself speaking about It's Never Too Late to Really Learn. Then we have Chris, who's going to be preparing for the first developer job. After that, we've got Rebecca talking about her journey into tech. And then we've got Carmel talking about from nowhere to somewhere. And then we've got Zahra at the end to finish us off with, you got the job, what's next? Cool. So I'm just going to get started with my presentation now. So yeah, welcome to my presentation regarding Never Too Late to Learn at the IAM Tech Meetup. For anyone who's joined late, my name is Ilesh Mistry and I'm a CMS Specialist and a Content MVP. You can contact me using the QR code on the right-hand side. So what I'll be covering in this presentation is going to be almost my journey, you know, where I got to and how I had to kind of, you know, get back into development after, you know, pause, and really like how that could hopefully, you know, benefit other people out there to say that, you know, it's never too late to really learn and get back onto things. So for me, back in the old days, I was a computer science graduate, and I've had various like support roles before my first technical role at MMT Digital. My only development skills were at and what I did was at university. So I didn't really have too much more than that. And basically I learned to become a front-end developer at MMT Digital. And it was a great and fantastic opportunity for me because it just allowed me to kind of, you know, almost think about a job that has something that, you know, allows me to do development on, whereas the previous roles I did it pretty much hands off. But what I was given when I started MMT Digital was I was given two massive thick books to kind of read. And mute. If you can just please, thanks. So yeah, so I was given massive books to read before I started my role, and they were pretty much like this. So this was something that was back in the days called Macromedia Flash and Director, and those two books, even though the quality, and I apologize for the quality of the images, I've found it's quite tricky to find those images of those books, but those two were pretty much the books that I actually had to kind of read before I started my role. And you know, at that time, it was more of a case of creating applications that would appear and be, you know, used on CD-ROMs, so on CDs, which we hardly use these days. But yeah, that was the kind of way that I had to kind of pick up my starting to become a developer. So, you know, that was great. You know, it gave me a great chance to kind of get into the industry. But my role evolved over those years within the business and slowly became more and more hands-off and more consultancy type roles, which actually inadvertently left me with years and years of hands-off development knowledge. So I wasn't really doing anything on the side. And, you know, thinking about it, it's probably about 10 years without seriously writing some code. And not being, I think one of the other things I found was quite tricky was the fact that I couldn't, or I felt like it was basically hard to talk to developers, you know, in a technical manner. And that was tough because especially in the industry, you're trying to kind of make sure that you advise people, but actually if you're not advising them on or they're advising them correctly on the technical aspect or know the information technically enough, then it was tricky. So, you know, it took me a while. But basically what I did was I had to kind of get back and really start looking at things. So it was tough, and it took me a while to kind of, you know, change my path really on this. Time wasn't on my side really. I had lots of, you know, outside work commitments, I had new family members, my personal time was eaten up by, children, and trying to focus and learn was hard. And I also had a big sort of pressure from being content MVP, so that required some additional side of things I needed to do. But also there was pressure from my team members who were asking technical questions, but I sometimes was struggling for answers. So I decided that, I needed to kind of change things. So I set some sort of like personal objectives and challenges. I felt that the longer I went down this route, the tougher it's going to be for me. So I basically decided that the best way for me to get back onto this was to basically look at creating like a personal website where I could write blogs, which is what I needed to do. I wanted to be a little bit free to experiment because that allowed me to kind of dabble with the things I needed to dabble with and learn from challenges and goals I would be setting myself. And one of the things that, even though maybe I was, learning some back-end technologies as well at work, front-end technologies were the craze and the things to get onto. I looked into, current trends and focuses on Stack, and people were talking about React a lot. And to be honest, I knew there was something called React, but I didn't even know what it was and why it was popular. And it was tricky, especially because, I never really looked into it. So I carried on, and I was also wondering who the heck was Web's boss. Like, people were talking about Web's boss, and I was like, then I realized that he was, helping other people out there with his courses. And to be honest, I did use one of his courses, and it really helped me from scratch, trying to kind of pick up things again. I felt like it was almost at the stage where I had to start again before I could even do anything more than that. So, and another objective I had to kind of make sure I included for my MVP status was to make sure I've had a hidden CMS in there. So then I kind of looked around and I thought there's this sort of like shiny new purple light thing that was out there. And that was Gatsby.js. And I found like this was something that, showed me the light, I guess. And I felt that Gatsby.js was my savior. It was popular at the time when I was looking at it, and it's still popular now, way more popular now, I guess. I started to follow them and looked out for what they were doing. It was the first one that caught my eye. The color could be something to do with it. But at the time, it was an up and coming tool that everyone was, using and testing their things on and building things from. So I basically started my journey off by just reading their articles and tutorials and learning my way up from there. So it would come from, your basics around hello world and moving up to that level to creating a page and sourcing that data from other pages. This gave me more and more confidence in using Gatsby. I could see how, I could use it with Markdown. At that point, I never even heard of Markdown, never used it. All of this stuff is like new to me, or was new to me. And one of the good things about Gatsby is I had a source plugin that I could use to get the data from the headless CMS content by Kentico. And that allowed me to almost, work together and deliver what I was initially setting myself as a target and goal. Like I mentioned before, I'll hold my hands up. I've never coded with React before. And know it's very popular and was popular then. But that first taster in those tutorials, I could already see why people were, enjoyed working with it. So, that's great. It allowed me to kind of, set my next steps. And what this allowed me to do was get a website out. I had something working locally. It still needs a redesign. If there's any takers out there, let me know. But I guess the key thing for me was the fact that, you build a website, but you build it locally, but you need to host it somewhere. You need to push it to somewhere where it can kind of be used and other people can see it. So I started to pick up some DevOps and system side of things. And normally at the company that I work with, it would be the case that you speak to that team and that team deals with it. But in this case, I felt like if I do that, then I'm not going to learn myself. So I started to read up on articles on Netlify, which I felt was awesome to come across, and looked at how they could manage my repository and host my website. And then I realized slowly that that was the one that was going to be the right one for me. And it allowed me to pick up, everything quite easily, to be honest. There's great articles out there that, show you what to do. And even when I got errors and difficulties, I looked them up and found solutions, or people have written solutions about the things I've already come across. And Netlify's got, awesome aspects to it. It's got security elements behind the hosting. You learn about environment variables, again, something that I didn't know about too much about before. And I started to ramp up my skills, which I felt was really important to do, and not just like someone who builds websites or can't do some kind of deployment or handle failures in deployments as well. So I'm going to try and summarize this stuff a little bit. So I always feel like, you got to put something into it to kind of get, your website without, and sometimes it's a case that you don't need to be a specialist in that area. You can learn to become, better and better at doing something. And I feel the best way to learn is by making mistakes, learning how to kind of resolve those mistakes. And that's how I learned. So that's how I kind of picked up my skills. And I'm still working, I'm still trying to go and still sort of like go and learn more as much as I can. And since I started to build a website, I think I'm really glad I made that shift. Just from advising people, it's better to not just do that and keep your sort of hands into the code, for example, and always, having that little bit of aspect which then stays in your mind. I must admit, like, the initial push is hard, especially if you've had like a career that's off coding or development. But my advice is not to give up. The time is obviously never going to be on your side. You've got to have to kind of factor that in at some point. And maybe even like a little bit of time here and there that would help. There's obviously going to be lots of hints and tips from the speakers after me as well. So, use them, use other people online, and see if, I think a lot of things right now are social media. You'll find a lot of help on social media, hints and tips on social media, lots of areas to kind of like pick up and start learning. And finally, additionally to that, I think like I would recommend to create your own repositories, private repositories on GitHub or something, areas that you can have a play, get used to coding. Then you can start like creating open source projects afterwards, like, and those things are going to be really valuable and other people can see what you're doing. And then I think, one of the things I feel sometimes is a question is that, oh, I've not studied in that field. Is that going to mean that I can't be a developer or switch or learn about development? Absolutely no. Like, anybody can make that switch. You just need some time to invest and also need the opportunity to do it. But don't wait for anyone. Take that step because, as soon as you start learning, every day is going to be a learning experience for you. And I guess the key thing here is it's never late to learn. Thank you. I can see a few questions. If you have any other questions, just drop them in the chat. I think the first question here says, what languages did you learn at university? For me, it was Java. And have I used Java since university? No. It's one of those ones where I feel like I guess university is getting better in finding the right technologies that help, the students to go and utilize in businesses. But for me, Java was the one, and unfortunately, I didn't use it after graduating. what learning resources do you prefer? Online tutorials, books, boot camps? Good question. I think it's almost leading, at some point, I'm going to be releasing a poll soon, and some of those things are going to be on there. That's pretty much my question. But I would probably say I prefer online tutorials because you can follow them in your own time when you want. I feel books for me, and that's just me personally, it's harder. I lose interest, so I feel like I need to do something while I'm doing it. I can see it and follow along. I think boot camps is great, but sometimes it depends on how you feel about that. Sometimes it might go too fast. Sometimes there isn't a chance to do any sessions with one-on-one. So sometimes it could be, but it depends on what helps. And I think if anything like that helps you, I think that's the best thing that could be out there. A couple of more questions. What are your opinions on completing Udemy courses for software development? I think, Udemy is one, but there's lots of other ones out there. I think I heard someone say quite recently that LinkedIn are doing some courses that are professionally approved. So you could do their course, but because sometimes it's a case that Udemy or other places may allow anybody to upload a course. So it could be the case that, there's other places out there, and if you need to use Udemy, that's fine. You could use it, or other places as well. Like there's lots of things there. Question later. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's fine. Shiv, just send me a message or something, and we can go from there. Currently learning Groovy. So sorry, I'll read the question out. I'm currently learning Groovy, a language for the Java platform. I found books be more resourceful since it's pretty niche language. Yeah, completely agree. Like whatever you feel is the right way for you, do that. So, there's people that I've spoken to quite recently at work, and they say that they prefer, reading and writing, documents or articles and going through that motion, whereas some other people prefer demos and somebody showing them something. So, whatever is best for you is probably the recommended approach. And if you need to try other approaches, then do that as well. Another question is currently on a week 2 of a 13-week boot camp company and with very high success rate, feeling confident. Yeah, good luck with that one, and all the best for that one. And hopefully you can let us know how you get on. That would be great. Shane's got a question about, I'm using HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript in my bootcamp right now, which is awesome. This is a great starting point for someone who wants to be a web developer. And I think that side of things, I think will allow you to kind of, sometimes I feel like when you build something, you want to see what the output is, you want to see what it looks like. And in front-end tech, I feel that quite more, but you can kind of do that and see that. And that's one of the beauties of working in this sort of environment that we are at the moment. Another question, just a comment, don't worry too much on where to learn, but just start learning. Correct, yeah, completely agree with Hugo on that one. One more question. There's a lot of technologies and tricky if you decide to pick which one. What factors made you pick up a particular technology such as Gatsby? Yeah, no, completely agree with you on that one. Like if you are looking to get into development, you probably were thinking, which technology do I pick? Which language do I look at? Is it TypeScript? Do I look at JavaScript? Or before it was when I first started, it was jQuery, and that was kind of the thing to look at. Whereas now it's a case of there's so many more out there. For me, the reason I chose Gatsby was the fact that I looked around other similar static site generators and similar options out there, and I felt like when I looked at Gatsby, that was the one that obviously the purple attracted me towards it, but it was the one that had the documentation where I could just easily see an output. And the important thing for me was the fact that there was some sort of like underarching, connection with content like Kentico, because that allowed me to say, okay, well, at some point, even though I'm not there right now, at some point I can connect Gatsby to the CMS and just bring some basic data out onto my page. And that was one of the big reasons for me to choose Gatsby. Cool. Thank you so much for all the questions. Great questions and comments on there. So this is great. Thank you for listening to my talk. I am now going to stop sharing and hand over to Chris, who is next on our agenda. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Ilesh. Thanks for having me.
No worries.
Is the sound all right, or is it too?
Sounds great. Yeah, sounds great. Thank you.
Perfect. I'm just gonna search for my presentation for a second. Cool. All right. Yeah. So thanks for having me, and great introduction already into like your talk. So I'm happy to be on stage and share my knowledge on like how you can prepare for your first developer job. I'm really excited to share my thoughts on that. Let me see if I can share. Are you guys able to see my presentation now?
Yep.
Sure. Okay. I can't see anything else, so if you need to interrupt me, please let me know, and I'll go from there. All right. So today I'll be talking about preparing for your first developer job. But first, let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Chris. I'm a very proud husband and a proud dog owner. So you might hear the dog bark from time to time if she wants to get some attention. I'm also the web team lead at Daily.dev, as well as a software engineer for them. Hello. All right. I also love the digital nomad life because I'm originally from the Netherlands. My wife is from South Africa, and we spend a lot of time like in between everywhere, really. So either in Europe, in Africa, or just like traveling around. And that's because we both like hikes, good food. So my wife is a chef, so I'm very lucky in that sense. And I also love to blog, which is something I do every single day. I write an article about something in the tech space that interests me. And yeah, it's kind of my motto to never stop learning as a developer, which I'll get back to as well in the presentation. And it's something I really enjoy. So that's about me. So from here, I want to take it as you might have got the job, right? So it's really cool. You got a new job as a developer. It might be as even an intern or a junior role, but it'll be your first job maybe. And often what comes then, like you manage to get the interview done and you got the job. But then you start thinking and you're like, oh, who's actually in charge, or what do I do? And a lot of stress comes from there. You might even get like imposter syndrome, which might lead to a burnout. You might make mistakes because you're stressed out or you don't know what to do, right? So there's a lot of things going on that you were not prepared for. And it's very hard to prepare for everything, but there are some tips I can give you, hopefully, that will help you ease the situation, right, of getting your first job or like a new job in general. Because I think I have to mention that it's not just like something you experience in your first job. It's like something that happens to every levels of finding a new job or starting a new job. It's always stressful. Like imagine if you were hired by Facebook to be their new senior solution architect. I can only imagine how stressful that must be, even if you're super skilled, because you still don't know exactly how their process will work or like what you are gonna do. Um, so it's always a stressful situation. But you have to remember that all is good. Like they gave you the job with a reason. So whatever this may be, right? So if you're the next senior solution architect at Facebook or you're the new intern at a small company, they had faith in you, which is something you should definitely have in yourself, because you learned a skill which they hired you for. Um, and it doesn't mean you know like the ins and outs of that skill, but you've proven that you're really good at learning that skill, and you can always improve on that. So that's definitely something you'll have to keep in mind. So let's get started, and I'll give you some like tips on that I think can help you when you start your new job, right? So these are the key points, but we'll go through each of them, and I'll tell you a bit more about them. So when you start, it's very important to set some rules up, right? So it's like um, who can you ask for help? Do you get like an onboarding buddy? There are some companies who are really good at this stuff, so they will give you all this information. But there are a lot of companies that aren't aware of like the need to help people get started in the company. And there's really no harm in asking these questions. Like it can only show that you are wanting to have a good experience, and that you want to grow as a person and an employee. So they will be very happy to like accommodate you with this. So I think it's really important to like ask the question who and when you can ask for help, because you have to imagine like within a company the people have their way of doing things, right? So like the other employees, they know exactly what to do. They're like a oiled machine, and you come in and you might even feel like I don't want to bother anyone, they seem so busy, but that way you will always be blocked, and that's something you don't want. So you can make it an open discussion. Depending on the company, the answer can be a bit different. Like either they say, oh, you get this person, he will be your onboarding buddy, and you can ask him anything anywhere. Or they say, well, since we are a bit tight on a deadline, we can only do it every morning from 9 to 10. So it really depends on the company, but it's very good to set like that that rule up. Another thing that I can't stress enough is that you write everything down. It doesn't have to be as extensive as I do, like online, but it even helps if you bring your like little notebook, right? And you just start writing down little things that you learned. Uh, and this can be literally anything, right? It can be little tips they gave you on, oh, if you have a general question, use the Slack channel, because like you get so much information, especially in the first week, the first month, that you'll forget certain things that are like super silly almost, right? And these can be like weird things that you really think aren't important, like when to ask for help. Like when you set that rule, write it down, because there will be a time where you're like, oh, did we say Tuesday or Thursday? I can't remember, and then you'll have to go back. So this can really help you. Another benefit is write technical details down, right? So you'll get to a point where you've asked someone to help you on a certain problem, and they guide you through it. They will hopefully tell you, um, oh, this is how it works. You can look at this example or look at this website, which explains this very well on how we use it. So take that information and write it down so you can always go back to it. Because I can guarantee you there will be certain times where you just literally like blank out and don't know what to do. And then you have to go back and ask the same question again, which, it does happen. Don't feel bad about it, but it can really help you if you wrote it down and you can do the work. Then, with these things said, ask for help. I can't stress this enough. And the amount of time I had, or even interns that were afraid to ask for help because they thought they would be like bottom. We are there to help you. Like it's in everyone's best interest if you grow within the company, if you get better at what you do, not just for that company, but for you as a person as well. Like you can't imagine like how good it is to feel a win moment. And you can only achieve that if you ask for help. And there is always something about finding it out yourself, but there's also something worth about asking for help in the right times, right? So, if you're confident you can find the answer within a reasonable amount of time, go for it. Like, find it yourself, all the best. That's even better. But if you're really unsure what you're even looking at and you don't exactly know what to look for, that's the moment you got to ask for help. And I can guarantee you people will be there to help you. And make sure they don't just give you the answer, because that won't really help you in the long term. It will help you at that moment, but to solve problems accurately, you will need to know like what the actual thing is that you solved. Like, how does it work? So when you ask for help, be very specific in what you ask, and also ask on like, so okay, I understand this is how it works, but why do we do it like that? Are there any alternatives, or what's the scope? So that is very important. Then a general rule of thumb is like, don't point fingers. Like, you might be I'm just going to sketch an example. You might be the front end engineer. Something like went wrong in a release, and you say, oh no, but it's the backend team fault, they messed up the data. So in general, like, just don't point fingers. Everyone makes mistakes. The good thing about mistakes is that we can all learn from them, and we should all work together to overcome them and see how we can grow and get less of them. So it will work better if you say, oh well, we had this issue come up, how can we make sure in the future that we don't get this again? Like, can we add a specific test case for it? Can we do a manual test? Can we do a better handover between the teams if that's needed? So those things can really help more than just saying, oh, it's not my problem, someone else messed up.
Hi, Chris. Sorry. It looks like
Hey.
your screen's frozen.
Oh, is
I
it?
don't know if it's gone into presentation mode or not.
Oh, right. Let's see. Is it back now?
I think so. Yeah, we're on the let's get started screen now.
Yes, yeah, that is the one. Oh, yeah, I think I can actually do it like this, maybe. Then I can see a bit better what's going on. Right. So the next point is actually on doing extra tests, right? So this doesn't mean like test cases with all kinds of fancy code that you have to write, but like when you've done a certain assignment, so your first work in the company, uh, and actually all the work you do after that, like especially in the beginning, do some extra testing on it. Like, make sure it works in every browser or system that you support. we often want to be quick, and especially in the beginning, like we want to like make sure the company thinks we're quick, but I could tell you it's actually more valuable for them if you are like more certain about what you delivered, right? So it's never a bad thing to do extra test cases. And then we get to my favorite point, which is never stop learning. So this is not for beginners. It's literally for everyone. And I think in general, for every person in the world, but like there are people who don't agree with that. But I think we should always want to be learning and improving ourselves. And especially in the tech sector, it's so important. Like the landscape keeps changing. You know, Svelte didn't even exist like a couple years ago. React didn't even exist, and now it's like a standard. We obviously have the whole thing of Web3 coming up, so things keep changing and evolving, and we have to at least be aware of these things. It doesn't mean you have to be involved in all of them or like switch over to all of them, but just keep yourself like up to date with the news. In the tech industry is very important. And then another thing we have to do is we have to really master the basics. So this kind of depends what kind of developer you are, but you can never know enough about the basics. I've been a developer for 16 years, and I still go back to like CSS basics, HTML basics, and there are things that even after 16 years I learned like, oh, I actually didn't know that's how something works, right? So the basics also keep kind of evolving, right? There will be new things that are added, but these basics are your fundament, right? If you don't know them to the fullest you can, you will be slacking, right? You will be taking shortcuts, and it will always be like worse off. So the basics are a very strong thing to learn, and this goes for any programming language or tool that you use. Then another thing is that you have to accept mistakes, right? So I'm a firm believer of mistakes make you better. It's like very harsh if you make a mistake and you feel bad about it, of course. But there's really no need to. I mean, the mistake shows you that you're human and you can only learn from it, right? So by making that mistake, you know what not to do the next time. So like, especially in the beginning, if you make some mistakes, you'll learn from it and it won't happen again, the same mistake. So over time, you'll be gradually improving yourself. So just be very almost happy that these things happen, because that gives you a really good opportunity to learn and improve. And then I'll get actually to the most important thing, which is on the next slide. Don't be hard on yourself, right? So we can be very hard on ourselves in multiple ways. Like we can think we're not fast enough, we can think we're not good enough, we think we make too much mistakes. Like there's always something going on, and you have to really put things in perspective. Like look at where you were a month ago, look at where you were half a year ago, a year ago. I tend to do this every now and then. Is just look even a month back. Like there were things I couldn't do, and now I can do those things, which is just impressive. So if you take all those little moments of you knowing things that you didn't know before, it really shows that you improved a lot. So before you decide like, oh, I'm not quick enough, just see how long it took you like half a year ago to do something. Like I can guarantee you'll be quicker at it now, and it will look better than it did before. So there is always that. Yeah. And with that, I kind of want to have a little bit of time for you to ask some questions if you have, and I'll be happy to answer those.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Great presentation. So I'm just looking through the comments. The first question I believe on here was, what are the biggest junior developer mistakes?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I don't know. From my perspective, the number one is not asking questions. Where people, they just sit there in the corner and they're afraid to ask the question. Even when you would come to them like, "Oh, can I help you with anything? How are things going?" "Oh, no, I'm fine," because they're either too nervous or scared to ask the question. So definitely for me, asking questions, and also, not taking enough time to appreciate the basics. So within any developer role, like Git is often very important, but people tend to like forget to learn the basics of Git. And then you start working in a company, and now all of a sudden you need Git all the time. Like, oh, I don't know how to do this, and I see that also as a thing very underestimated in a lot of junior roles.
Yeah, definitely. I think like, just to add to that, it would be, you find like sometimes going into a company and you're a junior in that company, it feels like you're a little bit afraid to ask questions, in case you feel that the person you're asking that question to is going to think of you as dumb or something. So that really hits people as well, like where they probably need to just not feel like that. And hopefully the company on the other side is not going to treat them that way as well. So that's super important.
Yep. Yeah, with that said, you actually made a very good point, is that I have to unfortunately say there is also a thing where some companies have a very toxic environment, and even if the role sounds so great, like if it's a toxic environment, you're not gonna like the work. Unfortunately, it does exist in any job, really. You can hit a job where it just doesn't work out. So also be truthful to yourself and say like, okay, this isn't working. I won't be able to grow here. I'm not having fun. This is not for me.
Yeah, definitely. And the next question got on here is, what are your opinions on getting certifications like Oracle's Java exams? Do you think it plays any significance in your professional development?
I've never encountered them to be. I think they can definitely help for certain. There are certain um, certifications you can get that will definitely prove you know something, but like it's very much a thing of like theory versus actually doing it. Like, so take AWS certification. You could have all the certifications and still don't know what to actually build from it. So when it comes down to it, it always comes down to being able to actually use that certification to the fullest. But they do definitely have some kind of appeal to them. So I do think they are a good thing to always have if you can back up with actually doing them.
Yeah. And then just got a comment on there. Somebody's mentioned vanilla JS fundamentals is probably greater compared to learning React straight away, which is probably makes sense. I got a question on there is for you, because I know you produce a lot of tips quite regularly. Where do you go if you want to look for some help?
That's a good point. I actually wrote about this the other day because I have slightly shifted, right? So I used to be like a very big user of Stack Overflow. I let you go there for everything, and you learn how to copy paste something and it works. Nowadays, I really like to dive a little bit more into the background. So I tend to use depending what it is. So if it's JavaScript, I tend to use MDN. If it's a plugin, I tend to use their documentation or Discord channel, just because you get a lot more background as to why a certain fix is working, rather than copy pasting it from Stack Overflow and often not even knowing why it works. So that would be my answer.
Nice. There's a comment on there. I think it was more when you were talking about like people starting, but like try not to compare yourself with others. Try to focus on yourself, which is really important, because if you start comparing to other people, you're going to have that issue where you're trying to compete, and it doesn't make sense. There's one question on there. Is there any talks on preparing for interviews and getting our best overall? Sorry for that person. We had a few people that dropped out from the speaker session, but hopefully we'll get them out in a future meetup soon. Another question here is, what are the minimum skills to have as a junior dev? I mean, like knowing how to set up a dev environment with Docker, Git, Cloud, Scrum, tech stack, CI/CD. So that kind of side of things. What are the minimum skills that you would probably recommend or have for a junior dev?
That really depends. Is often the answer, but in this case as well, because I find it so hard, especially with the developer space changing so much. Because if you would have asked this question 7 years ago, I think there were a lot less responsibilities for a web developer. So you would be a front-end developer and you would be responsible for adding CSS to something someone else has set up. Nowadays, you need to know so much more things in a lot of cases. So it really depends what kind of job you are finding. Like you also don't forget, like there are so many different types of developers you can become. If you want more into Python, like there's obviously a different skill set needed. But I generally think if you're able to create a project from scratch, knowing what you're doing and being able to put it to a production environment, you should be able to get your first job, no problem.
Another question on here is, what are the skills needed to learn as a junior dev who wants to become a senior dev? What are the attributes of a senior dev? Does experience matter a lot, or is it the mastery of a certain skill set?
Ooh, that's a very interesting question. I think it's a good mix actually. Like you need experience because as a senior you're not only in need of like technical skills, but a lot of soft skills are actually involved in being a senior, which are often more important than being able to do the task at hand. So like for a senior, it's very important to think about like the broader picture rather than fixing a little issue at hand. So you always have to keep like the broad picture in play, how to optimize the best, like where are we going with the product, like things like that are actually becoming more important. Plus, you'll need to be able to teach other people how to do it so they can help you get there. Because like you'll probably see going from junior to media to senior, you actually end up doing less programming and more guiding people into programming and thinking about the product versus actually typing code.
Yeah, no, that's great. Another question is working on side projects really a thing to improve as a developer?
Yes, it is. So it obviously depends if you enjoy that aspect, but I really think like working on these projects gives you more of an experience in real world scenarios, and I think that's where they really thrive at. Like even in my little tip articles, you often use something that you never really use in a real world scenario, unfortunately. I don't really have a really good example, but there are like little tips I give that explain something, but that's not often how you actually use it in a real world situation. Because there's more things involved, like you can't just use that thing, you have to combine it with some things, etc. So I think that's where side projects really thrive, and they work best if it's something you're really passionate about, because you will want to put in like the extra effort, and it will really speak for your personality, what you've built there.
Yeah, definitely. I think some other scenarios I've had in the past is that people are building side projects and they're actually getting noticed and employed that way.
Yep.
Companies look at some things that somebody has built and say, okay, well, that's a really cool thing that you built, and almost ask them to join that company because of the things that or the way they built it. So it makes a big difference, I think. Another question is, what makes a junior an asset to a company?
Well, there's a lot of things actually. So one of them is they're a very strong asset because they give a new perspective, which is the perspective of a junior. I mean, it sounds silly, but it's really important because, like, let's say you have a small company and there's two senior kind of guys working there. They write code, it's very technical. Someone else takes over, they have no idea what they're looking at because it's too complicated. Like they didn't think about making it readable for like beginners, which is something, I don't know, in my current job we are experiencing this, where we now have a junior entering, and there are a lot of questions about like naming conventions and like, oh, but what does this actually do? It's not clear. So it gives you a really good perspective to think about what you've built for the junior. Another one is obviously it gives the company an opportunity to help someone grow in the tech space, because as we all know, there's never enough developers for the jobs. So it's really good to keep everyone, to educate people and introduce them to the tech space. Yeah, I think the perspective one is really one of my favorite things about having juniors in a company.
Yeah, like juniors coming into a company are fresher, breath of fresh air. Really, like they bring in something different that you, as a company that's carrying on, like you mentioned, Chris, like carry on. The people are doing their day to day, but these guys or these people will come in and actually suggest even just something different, like a new, and they may even bring new technology that can help and further enhance and improve efficiency, because they've got fresh ideas. Next one, someone just said that they like MDN, which is agreeing to what you're saying, Chris. Somebody said you'll slowly figure out what type of applications you want to build. This is better than having everything served to you on a plate, as you will learn how to learn, which is awesome. Yeah, I think that's great. How important is TDD as a junior?
Okay, yeah, not at all. So I'll just like burst that bubble. I don't know. It's really not important. Like I said, I've been a developer for 16 years, and only in this job, it's actually the first job we do test-driven development to a certain degree. Like I know there are companies where this is very important, but like it's really not that important for a junior. Like it has its pros for sure, but if you look at how many people actually do it in the industry as a global, like it's really not something you need to master before. Like either you can learn it on the job, or if you grow as a developer.
This makes sense. Somebody said, they love working on a side project, which I totally agree. And it's awesome to do that kind of stuff. Somebody's actually said, can you add them on LinkedIn? I think all of that stuff, any details you want to get, contacts of people, I will try and share later on anyway, on the meeting invite. But you know, hopefully we can kind of get that details to you guys so you can connect with the speakers as well. What's your, or you can just drop in your LinkedIn if you want, in the comments if you want as well. What's your favorite coding book?
I actually don't read that many coding books, but I do have one favorite. It's called, I must say it right now, so I'm just gonna look it up to make sure that's the name. Yeah, it's called Refactoring to Collections from Adam Watam, so the guy who built Tailwind. This is back in the days when he did Laravel. So it's a Laravel book, but it's really good because it's not just about Laravel. It's really about getting your mind around how to refactor, to think otherwise about your systems, how to make them smaller and things like that.
Okay. And I think one final question we've got is, there are junior MERN stack developer aiming to become a mid-level developer. What skills should they sharpen to mid-level developer, and how long would it take considering they're a graduate and never pushed code to production?
Ooh, that's a very good one. I think, yeah, this really depends because like a mid-level is very determined, very specific to companies. Like some companies don't even use that term, I found. So it's very hard to put a number or a skill to that. I think it's you become like mid-level developer, media developer if you are comfortable at what you do. Like you have no problem doing the task you do daily at a good rate. Like I don't know how else to measure that, but generally that's my experience as to how you progress.
That's great. There's no more questions, so thank you, Chris. This is really good. And thank you for coming on the Tech Meetup. Next up, we've got Rebecca. But before we go to Rebecca, I might just quickly put something in the chat for people to win us some swag. So you can answer that in your own time, but I'll put that in the chat area and have a go at that as well at some point. Rebecca, you can probably do that after your session if you want. That's great. So next up is Rebecca.
Hi everyone, can you hear me okay? The standard little intro there. Okay, so I'm gonna share this. I've not actually used this format before, so please bear with me while I try and have it up for just one. Okay, seems to be a problem with it actually. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. This is not allowing me to screen share right now. Give me 1 second. As I say, this is all new. This is extremely embarrassing. Okay. Can you see it now? You should be able to.
Might just be loading for us.
I hope so. Give me 1 second. There is always something, isn't there? Not yet. Thank you. I've just read that in the chat. Thank you for letting me know there. Okay, there we go. I've changed the settings. You should be able to see now.
You can see, not yet.
Let me try. try it this way. Okay, can you see? You should be able to.
No, not yet.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, or something white
You
came
should
up.
be able to see something. Yeah. Can
Is
you
it
see
the Let's
something?
Connect? Is it the Let's Connect one?
Yeah, that is
Yeah, we
correct.
can see it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now it's just gone off. Oh my goodness gracious me.
Now
There
you're
we
on
go.
Google.
Of course I am. There we go. Let's get this back up because can you see my screen? We've had 3 years of this. Can you see my screen? Are we live? Are
Still
we
the
good
Google.
to go? Still the Google.
Yeah.
Isn't that a
We can
little
see
bit
it.
rubbish? You can,
We can
see
see it.
my Google.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're watching Google.
Right, good. That's a good start. At least you can see something. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, something's happening. We're back on the slides.
Yeah, I can
Good.
see now, I think.
Yeah.
This is not my work computer. I don't know what I'm doing on this. That's the secret to life. Right, okay. Hello, everybody. I'm really sorry about that. Clearly, I'm a software developer. I know tech. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about my journey into tech. So I won't keep you time anymore. I know you can see my screens now. I will present them. I'm a junior software developer. I work for a company called Outable, and I work with the Jamstack, which is a JavaScript API and markup language. I absolutely love content management systems as well, and console logging. So let's go into it. This little talk will be about my specific journey into tech. You might be able to get some tips from it. So why I chose to become a developer, what obstacles did I face, what resources are available to learn, and am I actually ready to apply for jobs? So as I say, I am a junior software developer. I work for a UK-based company. I live in Denmark, so it's 100% remote. I'm currently enrolled in Google's Women's Developer Academy, where I'm learning with them at the moment. So that will come to an end soon, and I'll be able to pay my knowledge forward a little bit more. As I say, I'm 100% remote. I've never met any of my team in person. So why did I choose to become a developer? Well, I want to share this journey with you because it's a little bit unusual. It's a non-traditional route into tech. So it might resonate with a few people and help bridge a little bit of a gap. It started in 2020. Before tech, I'd been a gemologist and an after-sales workshop manager. For those that don't know, a gemologist is somebody that can identify gemstones and procure gemstones. I did that for the fine jewelry in the watch industry, and I did this for 15 years, helping customers create one-of-a-kind bespoke pieces of jewelry. So it's quite a big career shift, especially after 15 years. I worked my way up from sales to senior sales, VIP sales, and then the after sales manager. I'd achieved so much in my career, and I hit that point where, do I continue down this path? Or do I take a leap, do something that I want to do? Well, this is the story of how I got there. This is where tech came in. Have you ever been surrounded by people when you're in a room and they're talking and they're really animated and so happy? You might have a drink in their hand and you're thinking, I don't know what anyone is talking about at all. Well, that was me quite a lot of the time when we lived in Manchester. In Manchester, if you don't know, it's a fantastic place and it's a great tech hub. most people are in tech or know of people in tech, so there were a lot of conversations. I just didn't have a clue what was going on. We'd be sat around and they'd be talking about bugs, and I'd literally wait for the conversation and be like, yeah, but what bugs are they though? Like, if they're really impacting your work this much, you need to get cleaners come into your office more regularly. It's a bit of a health hazard now. Little did I know. Hindsight is an absolutely wonderful thing. And through me going through this journey, I can look back at it now, reflect, and share and impart some information, hopefully. So, in saying that, what obstacles did I face on my path? As you already know, I'm a career changer. I'd spent 15 years in the same industry. I knew that I wanted to learn, but how? What do you do? I wanted in. How do you learn a completely new skill? What do you do if you don't know anybody, or where do you turn? So this is really important on any journey. When you're trying to learn something, you need to know what type of a learner you are to maximize the time and to learn efficiently. Are you an auditory learner? Do you listen to information? Do you like podcasts? Can you take it in and then regurgitate it and repeat it? Are you a visual learner? Do you like watching? Do you like reading? Or are you more hands-on? That's okay if you don't necessarily know right now. Sometimes these can change as well, depending on the subject. So I've just popped a little link below. If any of you are interested and want to try and find out a little bit more about your learning style, it can help, especially when it comes to trying to maximize your time. For me personally, I am a visual learner. I like to watch and to be able to take it in so that I can digest it and then try and apply it myself. So I do love a good YouTube. I really do enjoy YouTube so much. What I would say as well is, when you're learning, to try and apply different methods to learning. One that I want to say is the Pomodoro technique is fantastic, and it's something that for me is actually really quite good for me. I will learn for 25 minutes and take a 5-minute break, and then repeat this 3 times, take a bigger break. That's now. On the beginning of this journey, it was a little bit different. So that's your first obstacle done. You know, you've identified how you learn. So what's next? You might want to Google and find out what you want to do to become a developer. There are many different types of developer. So if you actually Google, how do I become a developer? One of the top answers is pick a language. Pick a language? They want me to pick a language. I didn't know there was more than one. I'm going to be honest. At the beginning of my journey, I was like, okay, right, pick a language. So instead, I approached it differently. What do I need to code in to get me the quickest, the simplest website? What's the MVP? What do I need the least of? And it was HTML and CSS. So I went on and started to have a look at HTML and CSS. But this is where the second obstacle came in. I'd just given birth. So it was September in 2020. We all know what happened in 2020. So we all know in the UK that we were all staying at home. I had a 2.5-year-old daughter at the time. I'd just given birth and we were all at home. So clearly my time was a little bit limited. Okay, so what do you do in this situation? Well, it's to each their own. I would definitely just want to throw out a disclaimer and say that in no way at all would I have been able to learn at all during my first pregnancy or in my maternity leave with my first child. It just would not have happened. I probably would have loudly, very loudly, expressed my opinions and strong displeasure if anyone had even suggested the fact that I should be trying to do something else in that time apart from eat and sleep. Every time is different. So, with that being said, it was the right time for me to learn. So what do? I had a little bit of out of time and I'd just given birth. So I gave myself 6 weeks to heal from the process and to adjust to the new way of life so that I could monitor it and to try and see a pattern coming. Knowing that I wanted to learn, I knew that I needed to find a pattern. I already knew my learning style. Okay, to find a pattern. So December rolled around and I'd looked back on the time. I was able to identify times of the day where I was more alert, when the baby was asleep a little bit more. Sometimes they don't always sleep regular, but I could find little patterns, little pockets of time in the day that I could maximize or utilize in certain ways. For me personally, that was when I was feeding the baby. Feeding the baby, sat down, you're quite comfy. It's not really that comfy, but I was able to be hands-free, so I could use my eyes to watch a YouTube video. I wasn't able to code, but this is a step in the right direction. I'd made that mark and I was watching, and I really loved it. I loved it so much. It was great, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for me. So what's the next step? What is the next step? Well, you could carry on learning yourself independently, or you could take it a little bit further and see different paths. So, if you're limited on time as well, if you've just got 5 or 8 minutes, there are great free apps available. Grasshopper is a great one. Mimo, Solo Learn, Grid Garden, Flexbox Froggy, and CSS Dynet. My preferred one was Grasshopper. It was quick, it was short, and it was really manageable chunks to learn the syntax as well of, well, for me, it was JavaScript at this point. I wanted to learn a little bit more. So if you are limited on time, there are little ways to go. Keep going with it. The whole point of learning and to be able to learn well is to know your learning style and to make a regular pattern to keep it going. I think someone said that if you do something 8 times continually, you start to build a pattern. Your body starts to regulate it, and you start to begin to know your own routine then. So keep going with it. It's fine. And it's a little bit easier to digest in 5-minute intervals rather than sitting in a lecture for an hour. Free apps are great. So which direction do you want to go in? When you've got these resources to hand, I wanted to learn. I'm on maternity leave. Hello? Is that a question? Okay. So, is uni a viable option for someone with me, with 2 small kids at home, a full-time job? I'm a career learner. I'm a career changer. For me personally, at that time, it wasn't. It's quite expensive to put kids into nursery in the UK, and it's quite expensive for university. It's a long time as well to invest 3 years on something that I'm not 100% sure that I actually know that I want it yet. I'm thirsty for it. I'm really thirsty for it. And I want this, but do I really want it as a full viable career option at this point? I couldn't commit. So I carried on just looking at the free websites, but they still didn't give me enough. I knew that I needed more. I was trying at this point to toy with code using VS Code and having a look and trying to build, but it's not right. For me, it just wasn't right. Books can be right for people. I'm not that great at digesting the information from books, but there's just a couple of examples for you. For me, bootcamp was the right option. It was short. I know that a few of you have been to the same bootcamp as I have as well, so good luck. It's remote. It was for a short time period. I could fit it in my maternity leave where I was already off work, and it gets you work ready. I've actually written about why I chose North Coders in a different blog, so I've just put the link there as well for why it was right for me. It gave me an option to be able to see a little bit more clearly if it was right for me. And it was. You delve into a lot of topics. As I say, it gets you work ready, and there is a lot of support available on there. I personally really enjoyed my time. There was highs and there was lows, but in going through it, you will know if you want it or not at the end. There are also options as well. I would definitely say if you are wanting to go through a bootcamp as your next step on your personal learning journey, to reach out to the bootcamps and to see if you have any payment options available. A lot of the bootcamps do have options available for women or underrepresented groups in tech to pay deferred payments, they've even got grants, some of them. And in the UK does actually also have government-funded boot camps as part of their Skills for Life campaign, and I've put the links there as well. As I say, it's quite expensive to have 2 kids, to go through a boot camp, to hold down a mortgage or to pay for food. Take what you can, where you can. If you want this, don't put barriers in front of you. Always try and find a way. At the end of the day, we're problem solvers, and that's what we're here to do. So think of your journey into tech as your jigsaw. You're just trying to get the puzzle pieces into place as well. They're not for everybody, boot camps, because they are so intense. I referred to it once as console log whiplash, and it is so true. You barely grasp the concept before you're moving on to the next one. And if anyone is wanting to join a bootcamp, I would definitely say for you to try and have some structure in place, to have some time management things in place for yourself as well, so that you are eating, and if you're drinking water, keep yourself hydrated and turn off the computer. So set timers on your phone, especially for taking breaks. It's very, very important. There has been days where I would have worked a couple of hours extra instead of the 5 minutes. So be careful and be mindful of that creep into your personal life with everything, and especially with tech. 5 minutes trying to find a book can turn into 2 hours, or the next minute your family have gone to bed and you look down at the clock on the computer and it's 2 a.m. You're thinking, well, what have I done? And next day, you're no good for nobody because you've got burnout. Just always try and remember that you're there to learn how to get these skills and to find more. It's not trying to teach you everything at once, because nobody can learn anything at once. So some pro tips from a bootcamp survivor: make some alarms on your phone. Make sure that you've got one for drinking and for walking away from the computer to rest your eyes. It's so important, and I wish that I'd have been a little bit more kinder on myself. I think everybody that goes through a bootcamp would have come out saying the same thing. Be strict with yourself and do turn off the computer at night. Remember, you might still live alone, but you've still got you time. Don't let it consume you all, because when you consume it all, it does take the fun out of it a little bit, and that's what it is. It should be fun for you as well. When one of you succeeds, you all succeed as well. So remember to fight for everyone, to pump everybody up, be one another's cheerleaders, because it will get you through. And comparison is a thief of joy. So many times when you're working in pairs or pair programming, you'll look at other people and you'll think, oh my God, how did they get to that answer so quickly? I've not even completed one yet. It's going to happen. Don't worry about it. Everybody learns in different ways and at different speeds, and there are so many different things to learn. You can't possibly learn all of it. And that is why Google and Googling is a special skill in itself. So get a little bit better at that, because you will be doing that from day one. So boot camp is finished. It's the first Monday after boot camp. What do you do with your time? Well, for me, that was a really strange feeling. I felt a little bit lost, but because apparently I like to go all in on things, we moved abroad to a new country. We decided halfway through the boot camp to move to Denmark. My husband got offered a job, so we came. Why not? So right away I started packing, and I think it was 10 days after the course ended, we went. That was June. So I was still technically on maternity leave. So I gave myself a couple of weeks to settle into our rented accommodation, to settle the children into school. And as soon as they adjusted, I got back into the swing of things. I started making little funsies on VS Code, using JavaScript, using React, trying to get my memory working again to see that it was actually still there. And it was, you do remember things and you still have to Google things. I applied for 3 jobs via my bootcamp, as they have a portal, and most bootcamps will have a portal for you to apply for jobs in, because at the end of the day, the bootcamps do want you to succeed. They want to convert you as a number into a job. That's its fundamental purpose, really, as well, isn't it? To get those conversion rates high. So I applied for 3, and that didn't go well because I wasn't based in the UK. Even though they said they were remote, they weren't 100% remote. I applied for 3 jobs here in Denmark, and I did that through a portal called The Hub, which is set up by Danske Bank. And I reached out to them by phone, first of all, to introduce myself, because I'm a new person here in the country and I wanted to get a little bit more information. And because I can't speak Danish or read Danish yet, which was a challenge in itself. So I applied for the jobs and I got turned down because I didn't go to university. One of the people who I actually applied with said they will not hire anybody that can't code. And because I'd not been to university, I cannot code. You won't find that in the UK. You won't find that in a lot of countries. A lot more countries, a lot more open. It's expected that I should have gone to university because it's free here, because they have the luxury of that. And I'm so jealous because it's such a wonderful system. So as I say, the children are back in school, so this is my path. I didn't want to rush too much into applying for any more, so I settled back down into building some small things. And to document what I was building in public. I would make little quick things to showcase what I can do. So fundamentally, I knew that I wanted to focus on a front-end role at that time. And I wanted to think about, what does a front-end role entail? It will entail a lot of time using APIs. So I needed to show that I could use an API. Great. Okay. So have a quick Google of what APIs are there. Make sure you can manipulate the data. Get it just to render on the screen. A really quick one that I did was a NASA photograph of the day. NASA have some absolutely amazing free APIs, and I can't thank them enough, I suppose, for putting them out on there. There are so many good ones. I did an International Space Station tracker by using Google Maps, Google Maps integration, and using their APIs is useful as well. Which once again, it's just making sure that you're hiding your API keys properly. You can actually render things on. You can use them up properly to make sure that you're aware of this. And doing some basic design things as well. And for me personally, I like to create little games for my kids. So I make little coloring games or little sound. So you've got an on-click of a button, just little effects that you can use and make sure that you code it well. Making these projects and building them in public, I declared that I was building it. There is a hashtag on Twitter for build it in public. I didn't always use that though. I would sometimes just post when I'd finish, and I'd do a little screen grab recording. I wouldn't put too much text on the posting. I would just post a quick little demonstration video, post it to LinkedIn, a couple of little hashtags demonstrating what it was, and a very quick brief, maybe 6 lines maximum of what it actually is. The reason I didn't put a lot of text in is because the whole point of a short video is to grab their attention so that they can visually see it. With that as well, I would get better at posting, and I would want to learn more so you can integrate more and build your knowledge all the time and to keep it fresh. And it's a nice break from applying for jobs. As soon as I started to post these things, I would be getting people messaging me about jobs, or just to say, or the developers saying, oh, I really like that. That's really interesting. Have you thought about doing this with it? And I would tweak it and change it. And then more people would comment, and people would DM me, or recruiters would DM me suggesting I apply for certain other roles. There's a lot of difference of opinions when it comes to recruiters. Personally, I'm of the mindset that if a recruiter reaches out to you and it is not a role for you, reply to them and still say, thank you for the time. It's not for you at this time. At least you've messaged back, even if it's a bot. So what? You've been polite, and you're not turning the person down. You're turning that role down. So you're still making a connection with that person. So you should still be making connections. But that's another rant. I know that a lot of people don't like to, but that's a personal opinion of mine. And it does come around. I've made some nice connections with recruiters, even though they've not represented me ever, even in different roles. So I was posting jobs. I'd been put off applying for more jobs because I've had these rejections. I didn't feel that I was ready yet, but I was wrong. I was ready to apply for jobs. And I think that you are too. If you're already on this path and you're already trying, and you can answer some basic questions, and you can manipulate data by yourself from an API, or if you can render things on screen, and if you're passionate and you're wanting to do it, apply. I really just wanted to say on this point that keep sharing and don't be scared. I'm still scared, I'm not going to lie, but I've got my role now, and I think that everybody deserves to have their role if they want it. Try not to be too fussy about the roles that you're going for as well, because a role is a role and you're still wanting it. They will teach you, and it's easier to have a foot in the door and to learn and to be job ready. They will teach you things. Don't worry and think that you don't know it all, because nobody does. You're there to be taught. That's what a junior role is. and especially don't be put off by tech interview tips that you can see for FANG companies, you know, for the big four, all right, which go into depth, because they are really quite intimidating. A lot of places just want you to be teachable, want you to be willing, and want to see that you can grasp the basics. At the point that I was posting on LinkedIn short videos, I had Outable reach out to me. It was the owner of the company, and he liked what I was making. And he invited me to have a meeting with him and with his tech lead. And I did this remotely via Google Meet, and it was a really lovely talk. And it was a nice chat, and it was a personable chat. That's often the first step of an interview process, and the next step is a technical. I got on with the guys really well. They liked my projects, and we went into detail in that chat about my debugging process and how I like to really try and figure out what's going on before I actually start typing. And that was a big sell for them. So they didn't actually offer me a tech chat. They gave me the job an hour later, and I took it. I took it because I actually really liked the stack that they were using. I liked the tech. They use Gatsby as well. I really enjoy Gatsby. And that's something that I've been posting videos of me learning on LinkedIn. It's something that I knew that I wanted to learn more. And they were using headless CMSs, content management systems. That's also something that I was really wanting to try, because it's nice and tidy and all your data is in a box. And then you would do a query, a GraphQL query, and treat it like an API and get it back. And I love APIs and I love getting data. So for me, that was right. So if you're thinking you're not quite right and ready to apply for jobs, just think about the other skills that you can bring to the table. If you're a parent, you've probably got some pretty good negotiation skills. Like, no, you can't have 12 pieces of chocolate and a digestive biscuit for your tea. That's not a conversation that we have in our house very regular. If you're a carer, you've probably got a lot of patience, and I really commend you for doing that. But perhaps you want to try something else. If you just play online games, it's not a bad thing. You've got good communication and decision-making skills. And if you haven't had a job yet, fresh perspective, just like Chris said, you know, everybody has something to bring to the table. It's what you can spin on it. It's thinking about yourself and being totally reflective. What do you have? Because you have so much more to offer than you think. So that's it. Has anybody got any questions for me? Because I'd be happy to answer.
That's really good. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go through the questions. One of them about screen share, Google. Someone wants printer fixing. I think you answered what is a waterologist or waterologist? Or mute. Can you hear me? Yeah.
My internet keeps flaking a little bit now,
okay,
so
no worries.
you can repeat. Thank you so much.
I think we've got questions on the basis of visual learning. Something that's fine. I think whether you can share some of the links that you've got in your presentation, so that would be quite good. There's a great list of free apps that you have. People are saying Nemo is awesome and Solo Learn is great too. Founders and Coders is free and fantastic. So that's the first question here is, what was the job search like after the course?
Well, oddly enough, I actually started my job search during the course. I didn't know that we were moving to, to Denmark yet. So by week 3, the way that the bootcamp is framed, you have like an introduction section, you have a front end section. At the time I did it, you had a little break in between, which was like a careers week where people would come in and start giving you talks and you'd be advised on best practice for a portfolio and little things that you could do to try and help yourself. And I just thought, yeah, I'll just message people on LinkedIn. I've never been on LinkedIn before. I don't know how it works. So he's the head of a company. I'll just send them a message. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. I would just send a quick ad and I would message them saying, hi, I'm currently in North Coders. I don't suppose you'd have 15 minutes for a coffee chat at any point. And coffee chats are amazing. If you are on Twitter and you want to get into tech Twitter, I'm not really in tech Twitter, but you know, I'll look at it. Ask somebody for a coffee chat. If you see someone who's a developer, ask them and they will talk to you about the industry and about the role. And this can be your in to networking with that company. So I was already, I suppose, giving out my business card, giving out my contacts to people within the industry and making those connections. I had people that wanted to give me interviews while I was in the UK. And then as soon as I left the UK, unfortunately, those offers to interview were declined or taken back. I don't know the correct turn of phrase there. And that's fine. Things change. I was changing countries. I wasn't expecting to hold them to it. Sorry, I've got a really dry throat. But that's what I would say. If you are in the bootcamp, don't be put off by waiting till the end of bootcamp to apply. As soon as you finish one block, as soon as you finish front end, and you have one project that you've built ready, go for it. It doesn't matter if you're applying properly or if you're just putting feelers out there. Get yourself out there. Nothing to lose.
That's good. So next up, I think we've got a few comments. Someone did a FDM bootcamp for free, but it's only for graduates. Someone said that it's great tips on learning styles. Thanks for sharing. A cool tip of Dev inherited from the past is that hopefully helps someone is that they used to, when they were starting as a developer, they asked themselves what languages to learn next, that the industry was more relevant to the industry and trend that was there. And they did that by scanning job boards and trends for jobs and focusing on frameworks and languages that were advertised. So you can then base your learning on current opportunities in the market, keeping relevant, which is, I think, an awesome tip because it's almost like knowing what people are looking out for and then actually focusing on that.
I'd agree, but I'd also say at the same point, that's what the market is wanting, but what are you wanting? Like
True.
there aren't many jobs at the moment for Jamstack because it's still relatively new in the grand scheme of everything. Yet I happened upon Jamstack through my own learning. I would have never applied for a job with Jamstack from a jobs board because I didn't understand what it was. So you've got to weigh up, what am I actually interested in? Guide your knowledge with that, and then try and find the job. There will always be jobs for JavaScript and any framework. So pick one, but don't limit yourself. Just so what if you only know one framework? Because you know one, you will be able to learn another. It's just keep going for it.
Another one, another comment is they went to the iron yard full time and now they're in college. Time management is harder than coding itself, in their opinion, which is true. Got a question here. How did you manage keeping up with the workload of bootcamp while it's also trying to make sure you understand the concept and not falling behind?
That's a really great question. I don't know if you went to North Coders because I can't quite see the question, but I definitely had one day where I was crying my eyes out. There was one day it was too much for me. I still had a lot of emotions from giving birth, and because your hormones are still balancing out. So it definitely didn't help that I was learning something that just wasn't sinking in. That day was like a turning point for me. I feel like at that point of me crying and saying I need to leave early because it's not sinking in, I realized, what am I doing? Of course it's not going to sink in. We have one afternoon to learn something. Why would it sink in? Just take notes on what the concept is actually trying to describe and make good notes, and then come back to it later. When you're in a bootcamp, it's not supposed to teach you everything. You're always going to feel like you're falling behind. And the reason you're always going to feel like you're falling behind is because they make it and they design it in a way to keep up and to keep in front of the fastest people that could possibly be there. The fastest people that could possibly be there are the people that are already developers that might just be there to come back to be able to re-grasp what they might consider as the basics. And if you understand that, then you might be a little bit kinder on yourself. And I think that everybody goes through the boot camp should be a little bit kinder on themselves because they are intense. And don't compare yourself to the people that might finish or do something completely off the wall that you'd never even thought of or considered when they're building something and you've just got something simple and elegant. Sometimes simple and elegant works a lot better because your code might possibly be a lot cleaner on the inside.
So you might want to check out a few comments because they're talking about North Coders. So you might want to just check out that some of them are saying they may be on the same one that you were at as well. There's someone said first tech job through a recruiter, second job was called by recruiters every day. So it does definitely help to just get out there and make that initial post or whatever to help you get noticed. What do you think a senior developer can do to help a junior developer?
That's a really good question. Give them patience and show kindness. I have a great senior developer at the moment who leaves me alone. I know that sounds awful, but he knows when to leave me alone and he knows when to come for support. And the reason he knows that is because I've been extremely clear with my expectations on what I want. At the beginning, because it was 100% remote, there was a bit of teething difficulty, I'm not going to lie, where I didn't feel as supported as I could be. And that came down from the top. They'd not had a junior. They didn't know how to support a junior. And that's going to be different for everybody because it's going to be personable. For me, the way that I learn is I want to tackle something. I want to have a go and I want to have a try. If I have a problem, I'll stick to it and I'll Google as much as I can. And if I really can't, I might have a half-hour bit of a rant to myself and a moan to myself and feel like I'm going to give up. And we're all going to feel like that. But that's the point that I'll call for help. And if I call for help, he knows that, okay, let's schedule a call and let's talk through this. And while I'm at that point, I will move on to my next task. So how can a senior support a junior? I think that's between the senior and the junior. They have to have open dialogue and to be able to communicate effectively as a team and as a pair, because it is about that pairing. Every pairing is going to be different between the chemistry and how they communicate, and making sure that you can communicate effectively, because a pair that can't communicate effectively isn't going to get the results. And it's important for the senior to allow the junior's voice to be heard. A lot of juniors won't feel comfortable being direct and saying what they need. So creating a safe space for that, for me, is imperative. I hope I answered that, but that's just a personal opinion.
Really
Maybe
good.
It's because, yeah, I'm a career changer. I've been, I get that. It's important to me to have communication.
Cool. And then the next one, somebody says, really good talk. And then we've got, where can we get access to the recording and the links to the slide? So recording, I'll share once package it all up and ready for it to be used. And I'll share the link around on LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. The slides, I think what I'll do is I'll just reach out to all the presenters and see if there's a shareable link, and then add that to the recording as well. I think there's one or two more. So what can people who only have freelance experience do to find jobs that they want more experience? And also, there are not as many junior roles out there. And even for those roles, they still want people with some years experience.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't have as much experience in this field, but I'm happy to take my take on it. You're totally right. It seems like some pockets of the UK are highly saturated with more juniors than there are junior roles. And you're finding that there is a shift in job description between what is a junior. HR make a lot of these roles and job posts on LinkedIn. So they're not always 100% accurate. Okay, so don't worry about that. If they're looking for some experience or more years, still apply. You've got nothing to lose by applying. I'm not too sure in what you could do if you've only got freelance experience to find jobs that want more experience, because I don't know where you've come from freelance, but I would say you've already got freelance experience. Try it. Just try and apply for junior roles. There's nothing to lose. Don't just look at where you are. Look for remote roles. Look for 100% remote. You're still going to have a team to work with. You're still going to learn. There are the roles out there. They're just in different places, I think, essentially, which is one of the reasons that I have a job in the UK, but I live in Denmark. So we're problem solvers. We can do this. We can do it. You've got it. It'll come. Build it and they will come.
Okay. I think the rest of the stuff is just really thanking you for the talk, which is great. And we know the developer market is quite competitive these days. So that's it, I think, with the questions. Thank you, Rebecca. I think just a reminder that the poll is out there if you want to enter yourself into the swag. And then next up is going to be Zahra. Zahra, just let us know when you're ready.
Isn't it Carmen?
Yes, I think.
Okay, yeah, sorry, my bad. Let's go for Carmen. Sorry, let us know when you're ready.
Okay, so good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me, Ilesh, to this amazing meetup. I'm really excited to be here. And I'm going to share my screen. Please let me know if you can see it.
We can see maybe Teams.
The Teams only? Okay. Let me choose the one that, here it is. So you should be seeing the Canva presentation that I made. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So thank you again for inviting me. Good afternoon. I'm going to be sharing my journey as QE. I'm not a developer, I'm a quality assurance engineer, but we will get into that later. I decided to call my presentation From Nowhere to Somewhere because this is how I felt, and I wanted to try like a more poetic name than This Is My QA Journey. So, hi, my name is Carmen. Okay, hi, my name is Carmen. I'm a quality assurance engineer at ThinkLab and BlockFi. But before this, I was in nowhere, and you will see why. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my nowhere. I'm going to detail a little bit of my journey before I was a QA engineer. So in 2017, I migrated from Venezuela to Argentina, where I'm based right now. It was a difficult month to adapt myself, but on April 2017, I worked as a souvenir seller at Caminito, which is a touristic place that I highly recommend that you visit because it's beautiful. Then on May 2017, I worked as a community manager in a credit company. And in August, I worked as a nanny. Great job, by the way. December 2017, I worked in a jewelry store because the nanny job wasn't giving me enough money. So I went to this jewelry store and I got this job. And then on February 2019, I worked in a visa call center in the customer service department. On August, I changed and worked in a customs company as a receptionist. And then, unfortunately, on January 2019, I lost my job. So you might wonder, how do you get there? Let's see. This is my somewhere. On August 2019, and if you pay attention, on January, I lost my job. So my only experience or my only job that I had that year was this. I was a street vendor and it was the worst job ever. I was selling a product that nobody wanted to buy. I was feeling really frustrated because I walked 15, 20 kilometers a day and I was like not getting what I wanted. So, but this time my husband was paying everything in the house and I was a little bit like frustrated and I really wanted to help him somehow. And well, I got this really bad, crappy job and I call it my rock bottom. So one day I was talking to a friend and I was saying that I was really sad, that I was really frustrated, that I wasn't achieving anything that I want to achieve, that why did I migrate even if I have a house, if my mom can be there for me when I feel sad. So he said he's a programmer and he suggested me to do a QA course. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. First, because I'm stupid. And second, because I don't know anything about programming and math. And he was like, okay, you're not stupid. And you are a person who's always focused on the little details. So this might be good for you. So I decided to give it a try. So in October, I did my first QA course, and I mentioned as a first because it was online. I'm not a person, I mean, I like online courses, but if I have the possibility to go to a classroom and learn there, it's better for me because I get distracted really easily. And if I do an online course, that means that I'm in my house and 15 minutes, I just watching memes, or I just am scrolling on Instagram and not paying attention to what I'm going to do there. So this place had the option to retake the course, but in a classroom. So I did it. I did it again, and it was the best decision ever. The teacher was a person who was really passionate about QA. He had like 20, 30 years of experience. So he was so into this giving what he was receiving in this emotion of loving quality assurance, which is something that somehow I got. And once I finished the course, I was like, okay, I want to do this for the rest of my life. This is where I belong. This is what I've been looking for my whole life. So after I finished the course, I talked with my friend and I said, okay, I finished this. Let's go get me a job. And he had a friend that was working on a software factory that, luckily for me, they were looking at QA trainee. So on December 2019, I got my first tech interview at ThinkSlab, and somehow I nailed it. I don't know how I did it because I didn't have experience. I didn't have the technical language that now I do have. And 3 days after the interview, I received a message from Human Resources saying that I got the job. So in January 2020, I started my first job as a QA at ThinkSlab. ThinkSlab is a software factory, so they have different clients. They provide services to different clients. So I worked in a few different products until I landed BlockFi. I started on February 2020 as a QA there. I was in charge of the mobile app, and I was the second QA of the company. So we didn't have much there. And on June 2020, BlockFi decided to hire a QA service. That for me didn't make any sense. So I talked to my manager and say, hey, why don't we grab this QA service that we have and the two QAs that we already are in the company and merge it and create a QA team. That way you can, have more coverage and all the things that a great QA team can provide to a software company. So on August 2020, I founded the QA department in BlockFi. That was my first year of experience, and I already founded a QA team. So that means that I really belong here. So now on January 2022, doing a really fast forward, the QA team that I founded has almost 22 persons, and it's amazing how you can find a place where you can be yourself, work from home, and also have fun. Now, I have some tips and advices from me to you. First, and the most important thing is that you have to focus on your soft skills. Once you got the job, you're in. So you have to prove yourself and the people who hire you that you belong there. How you can do that? Well, focusing on your soft skills. Communication, attention to detail, organization, time management, teamwork and adaptability, and patience. Patience should be the first one, but I put it last. Communication, because you're going to be talking a lot and you have to communicate and say in a really great way what you are doing or what are the problems that you're facing or anything on a daily meeting. Attention to detail, because it doesn't matter if you're going to be a developer, a project manager, a QA, or a engineering manager. You have to add attention to detail. Of course, if you want to be a QA, that is a skill that you have to focus more on. But yeah, attention to detail is really important. organization because you're going to have a lot of things to do on a daily basis. So you have to prioritize which is more urgent than others and focus on the things that you have to deliver faster than the others. Time management. Time management is the key to success. One thing that I don't think I ever seen on a course or something like that, people don't say much. The insane amount of meetings that we have on a daily basis. So sometimes you have 6 meetings in a day and you're back to back with those meetings. So that's kind of, difficult to manage. So if you focus on what meetings to attend or what can you do meanwhile those meetings are happening, you are good to go. But this is something that is really hard to achieve. Time management is a skill that you have to really work on. Teamwork and adaptability, it's because you're going to be working with a lot of different people, and some companies like to rotate the people who they have in different teams. So you have to adapt to those teams, to the processes that they have, the way that they work, and all that jazz. And patience, because we need it. Especially as QE, when you try to explain that you found a bug and that bug is not working, it's happening not just only on your machine, but it's happening everywhere, you have to be patient there. Pro tip, if you are in a meeting and no one understands you, just mute your mic, turn off your camera, grab a pillow, scream a little, and then keep going. And now, where you can learn about QA? Well, actually, there's a lot of different places, but I sum up the 6 places that I really liked, and you have for free and paid. For free, you have YouTube, FreeCodeCamp, Guru99, and paid, you have Udemy, Coursera, and Pluralsight. Udemy has also free courses, but I think that the paid ones are better. YouTube should be your best friend always. Like if you're interested in QE, but you don't know if it's something that will fit to what you're looking for, just go to YouTube and find a video of a person who's saying what is that, what they do, and all that stuff. That way you don't lose money on a bootcamp that maybe you will leave in a week too. And yeah, those are my final thoughts now. These 3 final thoughts are really important for me, that if you don't like your nowhere, try to find your somewhere. Maybe sometimes we are lost and maybe we don't know where to go. How do we do things? How do we comfort zone? Leave it there. Go ahead and try to find something new. It doesn't necessarily have to be involved with tech, but you get there. The tech world has a place for anyone who wants to be in it. If you don't want to be a coder, if you don't want to be a QA, you have project manager, you have engineer managers, you have a lot of different roles that doesn't require programming or coding skills. This is really important because I don't think that anybody knows this. So I thought it was a good idea to name it. And the last one is take your time to find the best career for you in tech. Don't rush it. Try. Always look for, I want to know what a project manager does. Okay, let's Google it. Google it. No, I don't like this. Okay, fine. What does a programmer does? This, no, I don't like the code. Okay. What does a QA? Oh, I really like that. Well, let me dig in. Try to find what fits to you, your personality. What do you like? What do you feel about this? And yeah, that's it for me. Thank you so much for inviting me to this. I know it's really quick, but I really wanted to summarize everything to not extend too much. And if you have questions, if you want to know a little bit more about QA or you want some guidance, whatever, these are my social medias. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. That's it for me.
It's really good. Thank you. I love the presentation deck as well. It looks amazing. There are a few questions for you. So I'm going to start with the first one. Is lost it now. Where's it gone? Here we go. Do you prefer working remotely or in the office?
100% remotely. I'm a home person now. If you ask me on 2020, beginnings of the quarantine, I would say that I hate it, but now I love it. I can dedicate my time. I can, I like to take a shower in the middle of the day. So if I'm not having a good day, I just jump and take a shower, drink a coffee. I can be comfortable. I can wear my pajamas and still working, which is, for me, it's a really great thing.
Nice. Yeah. I think a lot of people find working from home a lot better for them. Works out really well. So we've got, you can always get Udemy courses discounted from full price. Just place it in your basket and wait a few days. That's a great tip from someone. So that's really good. What else have we got here? Oh yeah, someone is asking about your social media links. So I don't know if you can just share them at some point. And I think that's it. And people asking about the poll, don't worry about the poll. If you can't get to it, just drop me your email address or something, and I can always reach out and add you to the list of entries anyway. So just do that. And now we've got Zahra. Sorry for the mix-up in the orders, but over to you, Zahra.
Hey guys, let me share my presentation. So can you guys see this?
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome. So I'll be talking about something a little different, not how I landed my job, but what do you do after you've landed a job, and it's how to grow in your tech career. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Zahra. I'm a software engineer at BlockFi. I work with a tech stack, React, Redux, TypeScript, and now I'm dabbling in Elixir on the back end. I work completely remotely. I work with Carmen. I work completely remotely. I am actually going to pursue the digital nomad life. I think that should be exciting and probably be just working from abroad. Previously, I was in digital marketing, event marketing, fashion PR, and retail sales. So I don't have a traditional background. I've dabbled in so many career paths, and like each one of them taught me the skills I needed to land where I am. So I think the communication skills I learned from those roles definitely help with my soft skills, which are really important, and we'll talk about it later. And a little bit of how I got here. Well, this is just like a timeline, but I actually got so many rejections and I was like on and off with coding, but I decided to quit my job in digital marketing and right when the pandemic happened and applied to General Assembly and got in. And then after I graduated General Assembly in August of 2020, I started applying to jobs, and it took me 4 months to land a job. So I accepted my first role at BlockFi in January 2021 and started in February. I feel like what makes me qualified to talk about this is because I started as purely front end, and now I am dabbling in back end and have had opportunities to dabble in different things in the company, which is awesome, instead of just being on the front end. And I've spoken with mentors about career progression. So that's always been a positive conversation. So I wanted to share some tips with you guys on some of the most important skills you can gain to not flatline in your career. So congrats, you've landed the job. Like after all those daunting tech interviews. You got what you wanted. So what do you do next? A lot of people, I feel like will flatline in their career. They will lose motivation or think like you land your first role, that's where the learning stops, but actually that's where the real work starts. I remember when I landed my role at BlockFi, I started day one and I was like, oh no, what have I done to myself or my life? All the imposter syndrome creeped up and I started questioning whether I was cut out for this career. But you are cut out for this career. You just have to keep going and keep moving and not stop your learning. Your success is not a linear line upwards. Like, we as humans are not linear in a society that expects us to be linear. Like, we are gonna mess up, we're gonna have hard days, and we're gonna have lots of ups and downs. It doesn't mean that you're not qualified. It just means that you just have to practice more. And when you don't look at your career path as in, oh, I've landed this job, so now I have to just move to the next step, you can find missing gaps, and put your learning knowledge through that and find resources to help you level up. So some tips. I find it that you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. This means like take on tasks that are out of your comfort zone. When I first started, I would only take tasks that I felt comfortable tackling. But then my tech lead was like, take tasks that make you bang your head against your desk, and like, you have to figure out a solution, because this helps you practice your resourcefulness. And also you have to Google stuff, and you have to find the proper channels to look for the things that you need to solve that issue, because you're making yourself vulnerable, and at the end of the day, you do have to solve that issue. And worst comes to worst, you can always ask for help. But I find it that, like, now I have tried to just like not ask for so much help that, like, if I have a roadblock, I'll ask. But when I don't have a roadblock and I know that there's a path forward and I can Google something or a solution and the answer is somewhere, it just requires a little bit of digging. So it's good to put yourself in that situation. And it's not a deficiency that you don't know how to do something. It's an opportunity. And that's how you grow. Tip number 2 is learning how to learn. I think self-teaching is the most important skill you can have as an engineer. Your entire career is about self-teaching. There's going to be a tech stack that changes, or a new job you go to that's going to require something that you don't know. Your job is to learn to figure it out. And also, you are going to find yourself in situations where you don't know how something works. You don't know how a tool works. You don't know how your code is going to interact with like the backend or whatever. You're going to need to figure that out, and learning how to learn helps you gain confidence in how to look for things, and how to actually achieve the goals that you want, because you can search up anything on the internet. Like, all of the knowledge that you need to know is in front of you. It's just learning how to look in the right places. So this is a path where you're always going to need to learn something new. So it's good to get comfortable with that. Step 3, strengthen your soft skills. So I know that, like, your first job that you get, they're not basing you on your tech skills, because like, obviously they know that you're not going to add value very quickly to the company, but they're going to hire you based on how you communicate, whether you have potential, and if you're going to learn fast. And I think communicating that it's like you need to be able to communicate that in an interview. And like, your soft skills are what's going to help you move past the first round of interviews for future roles. Like, I definitely didn't get my role because of my skills. I got it because I was able to communicate that I want to learn and I'm passionate about it. And also being able to talk to other people on teams, emotional intelligence, understanding people's emotions while they're working on something is important in collaboration. I wouldn't have been able to do certain things in the company or even talk to other teams if I didn't know how to work with other people and other personalities. And that goes for a lot of engineers. Like, you just have to be able to get along with people. And there's a lot of people who, some people don't like to talk as much, and you have to understand that, but it doesn't mean that they are not technically advanced. So you will definitely have a leg up if you do strengthen those skills. Learn best practices. I was reading a book called The Pragmatic Programmer, and it said something along the lines of how sometimes people will implement bad practices, especially at startups or newer companies, or you're just getting the product out, but you're not focusing on the code, you're not focusing on the quality. And then some people will fall into the habit of that. Don't fall into the habit, learn best practices and look at the code and see how you can make it better. And like even best practices within engineering teams. BlockFi didn't have Scrum when I first joined, and then they implemented Scrum, which made the tickets so much more clearer. And also I find like having descriptive PRs make my life easier to test a PR and to understand what someone did. So I think this is a strong thing. This is a strong skill to have, to learn these practices and finding and looking at existing solutions and seeing if you can improve them. With my mentor, so I don't know how to properly write tests, and that's something I wanted to learn and I wanted to get better at. So in my team, like there weren't a lot of tests written for features, and they're important. So I've asked my mentor to teach me, and that helped me learn how to have skills in writing tests for code. And I remember like when I first interviewed for a job, my first ever interview was for a credit card company, and I got rejected because I didn't know how to write tests or connect my front end to a test that needed to be written in. They were like, we're very, very big on that because it's credit cards. The fifth tip is get a mentor and be a mentor. As you grow in your career, as far as I know, and I've seen in job descriptions, mentoring is even built into you as a senior engineer. Like you will need to mentor junior engineers at the company you're in. And if you know how to do it well, you'll probably grow your career even more. A mentor can guide you with so many topics. My mentor currently working with me on writing tests. We were also talking about presenting because I get nervous when I present to other people, and I like, even right now, I'm like nervous talking about this. And I wanted to get better at that skill, but he also wanted to get better at that skill because communicating with other people and communicating what you're doing and teaching others and knowledge sharing, this can be a great tool for mentoring other people and teaching people and solidifying your own knowledge of something. So in your career, you're going to encounter junior engineers, and those junior engineers need to be nurtured, and you want to be the one to do that. And the best way to utilize a mentor is a pair program to understand how they tackle problems and kind of like dissect their way of thinking, because you're only exposed to the way that you think, but the way someone else thinks and solves a coding issue will help you understand how to do something that you never thought you would. So some tips and resources, I would say start a blog. Blogging, I still have to get consistent with this, but blogging has actually helped me solidify my knowledge. Like I didn't know how to rebase and I wrote about it, and now I know how to rebase better. And then find a niche to be good at so you're kind of established for something in the industry. Join the tech Twitter community. Learn in public. I think learning in public opens up opportunities and also helps you let other people know that you're passionate. Learn beyond just your job. So my job is React, Redux, TypeScript, but I have not, like, I don't have any computer science knowledge. So I find it useful to actually like study math and data structures, algorithms, and some of the computer science stuff on my side, because it'll help me learn things better. Even though a lot of people say it's not useful, I think it is. So learn beyond your job, things that interest you. You can also do CSS art, which I think some people are doing, and super cool. Contributing to open source is a good one too. Oktoberfest happens every year. I mean, Hacktoberfest. And And that's a good opportunity to contribute, and you get perks as well, like I think a t-shirt. Join hackathons. I haven't done this, but I've seen people do it and it's helped their skills. And then also some resources are like free code camp to learn something more. Like I've used free code camp recently to learn backend. Udemy, edX, where you can study CS50, which is a computer science course. And then I found this Open Source Society University, which is a free degree in computer science online. I can link it later if you'd like it. And I think it gives you a structured overview of what you learn in a computer science degree, but it's self-taught, so you're not paying anyone for it. And then Coursera and Udacity are obviously great ones. And just enjoy the moment and have fun. And that's it.
Thanks, Zahra. Awesome presentation. We have a few questions for you. First one is, how do I get a mentor?
So I've had a mentor even before I started a job, and it's because I joined a lot of Discord groups and asked people questions, and like people are never going to turn you down, or maybe some will, they're too busy, but like just ask someone that you admire, or even like a person you know codes well, if they can mentor you or build a project with you. And at my job, I asked for a mentor. I had an engineering manager. I have an engineering manager who I talk to about things. And as a new engineer, I was like, I need some guidance and a mentor to give me some kind of thing, some kind of solidified like structure on what I need to learn and talk to about things. So they gave me a mentor, and now I feel better about that. So just ask and hit people up like around Twitter.
Sounds good. There's a question about what testing frameworks have you used and would recommend? Because you talked about testing.
Right now I'm using Jest, but with my colleague, we looked at Cypress as well once before, but I'm not an expert in testing frameworks, but Jest is what I'm using now.
Nice. There's a +1 for data structure and algorithms. And there's a yes, please. I think you said you're going to share some links, but what we could do is share the slides and they'll have the links on those later. That'd be easier.
Yeah.
Cool. You can add it to the comments if you've got it to hand as well.
This is the, this is a computer science one. Really useful.
That's great. I think that's it. If there's any other questions, please let us know now. Give you guys a few seconds. And while you may be asking a question, if you had a chance to enter in the poll, then just send your email address to me, or you reach out to me, and I can make sure that you're added to the list. We haven't got the merch just yet. The merch will arrive in a couple of weeks, but once it's there, we'll announce a winner and obviously announce it on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. Doesn't look like there's any more questions, so just want to thank all the presenters for with their awesome presentations. Apologies that we overran a little bit. Thank you for all the questions people have asked as well. Really appreciate the sort of communication there as well. And thank you for attending, everyone, and hope to see you on the next IM Tech Meetup. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day, evening.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.